You're listening to Makers Podcast, folks making things happen here locally, with Apollo Johnson and Andrew Sovine.
So could you tell me more about you and what you do here?
So I am born and raised in Savannah and ended up at the University of Georgia. And after a long fascination with live music and bands, was lucky enough to find something to do with music and stay in Athens. So I started my career in artist management, and I was on the management team for the band Widespread Panic for about 13 years in Athens, and then ended up leaving Athens and Panic and moving back home to Savannah to start a family. Did the mom thing with my two little girls for a while and ended up going back to work for Greg Allman on his management team, who was living outside of Savannah and Richmond Hill at the time. And so my career has mostly been in artist management. And as I got back into Savannah, it was always, got more disconnected with music than I'd ever been. And eventually started to kind of work in the community with music. I joined the board of the directors of the Savannah Music Festival. I'm currently the chair of the board of the directors of the Savannah Music Festival, which is starting next week. I'm so excited about that.
I am as well. And
So
thank you all for that.
Incredible lineup this year. And in the meantime, just getting to know my community again. And it's so, as you know, a very different landscape here in Savannah. So much happening, so much going on. So as I work in the community, more recently, the new project I have, I realized that there was a lot of music happening, but I was missing out on so much of it. I'd always find out after the fact of what some really great, interesting music that was happening. And I was seeing all these independent promoters pop up and having interesting festivals and interesting productions. And I just wanted to know more about that and wanted to know who was doing that and how could I find out about it. It was always just, like I said, finding out after the fact. I was also very interested, and this is right about the time that I met Andrew, we were both really interested in what was happening at the state level with the, I can't remember the name of the bill, but the Georgia Friends of Music had submitted a bill to the State House to create a Georgia Music Office, very loosely modeled around the Georgia Film Office. And as I was just meeting people and who were active in the music community, and I met Andrew, we started having that conversation about what that might look like for a community like Savannah. And we had this really great conversation about that, and decided, we might want to figure out who we are. And if that does happen, what do we want? Let's go ahead and have lots of conversations with everybody involved so we can have a voice if that happens. Well, I know a lot more about that now. And if that bill does go through, which it didn't at the last session, maybe it will this session, it will be more of a business advocacy entity at the state level, but probably won't come to Savannah. But in the meantime, Andrew and I just started talking to everyone who would listen to us. I cold called more people than I've ever in my life, just to say, hey, I'm Mary and I work in the music industry and I'm just trying to figure out what's happening in our community. And so it's been about a year since we first started talking about the Savannah Music Collective, is what we ended up calling it, and launched it in the fall. And it came together. I'm just so happy with the way the business model came together. And it really was a product of having conversations with as many people who would speak to me and Andrew about what the community needed and what would really help and lift the community. And I think the two main aspects of that was first and foremost a comprehensive live music calendar. So our community knows what music is happening. There have been some wonderful attempts at that in the past, but nothing really truly comprehensive, because there's not just, music in bars. We now have this one of the top arenas in the country. Johnny Mercer Theater is going to be renovated. But especially post-COVID, I was blown away to hear about all the artists that had moved to Savannah and the programming that they were doing in churches. There's really just incredible, not just guitars and bars, music happening in Savannah in the classical level, vocal concerts, jazz, and it's everything. So we really are trying to cover as much as we can. And then second point is that we just needed some connective tissue. I was looking at, especially working with the Savannah Music Festival, all the different music organizations there are in Savannah. And I just wanted to know who they all were and what they were doing and let them know who I was and how I was really trying to bring everybody together.
I love that you use the phrase connective tissue because I'm always looking for intersectionality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think, too, one of the conversations that Mary and I have had, and we still have, is like, there's been, you were talking about like, there's information silos, right? And there's these, we form these cliques, within ourselves. And one of the things I was noticing, and I mean, I'm still noticing, is that when it comes to like the calendar, well, there's like, if there's people doing like DIY house shows, well, there's this whole sort of network, and there's younger kids doing zines that are keeping up with the stuff. There's like, and nobody at this table is going to get into that world because we are way too old for that. And it's just that's not our scene anymore. And then there's like entire cultural and social scenes happening that like, I don't have any connection to, and I don't understand. And so the vision, the whole conversation that we've been having about how to collectivize, if I can use the term, is it's not so much of just like, oh, we're going to talk just about the nicest venues or whatever. It's just like, no, man, it's like, if you look at the calendar, there's, there's all the bars. Like we've got, there's shows at the Wormhole. There's shows, over yonder, but there's also like, opera debuts at like, at historic homes or whatever. It's just like, so there's, but it's trying to get
one Monday night.
Yeah, right. trying to break those silos apart and connect them to like make it a bigger, conversation. And I think that's why it's like, from the get-go, from the very first time that Mary and I talked about this, was just like, there are things that and this is still something that we talk about all the time. It's like, there are parts of the music scene and parts of just the community that we don't have any ties to, and so we if we're not careful, we can be completely ignorant of the fact that there is a world outside of our sight, right? And so that's that I think that was one of the main impetuses for me, at least, and I think for both of us, just kind of build this community, or like have a resource for the community. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing too. But it's like, you have to bring other people in.
Someone to make it, to build it. And so can I ask you, what are some of your guiding principles?
Listening to the artists, I think, is my main guiding principle. What do they need? What are they missing? What are we missing? What can we do to support the artist? And that's always been my passion, of course, working in artist management. So listening to the artist, and as much as possible, just making everyone feel genuinely invited to the table, just to make sure that they know, please call me about anything or send me an email. Let me know what you're doing.
So accessibility for artists, because I hear frustration, and I spend time in a lot of these spaces. And artists even say, I got to build my own table. And just talking to you, it's like, no, there's a table out here in this community, and you're welcome to it. So I love that you use that analogy.
I think one of the reasons that this is such a passion point for Mary and for me, for all of us, is that like, because of the way like our social media structure has been developed, and because of the way that like now it's like there's been these like all these stories like, oh man, you actually don't need a record label, you actually don't need a booking agent, you can do everything yourself, and Spotify is gonna help you, you don't need all these things or whatever. It's kind of created this situation where every independent artist thinks like, oh, I have to do it by myself. It's not that I can. It's just like, oh, I have no other choice. And one of the things we always talk about is just like, you can do that by yourself, but it's like, you know, it takes a village, man. It's just like it, and I think that like having a resource hub and having people know that there are resources there. And one of the right now we on the Music Collective website there is a directory of artists and bands, right? So you can go to you can see them, what they're doing. You can go to their website if they have, you know, like whatever, you can see whatever content we have. And you've got the calendar. This conversation that Mary and I have been having for the last few months is like, okay, well, how do we expand that to like having a studio directory? Because we just yesterday we're talking. It's like there's tons of. There are 3 other people in this like in the next neighborhood over, that have studios of various different capacities, right? And some of these guys are just like, oh, he's just doing post-production mixing for like film and TV stuff, or, you know, video game scoring or whatever. And then there's a guy who's just doing like drum programming, beat making, hip hop stuff, you know, things I have no idea about. So I've just been recommending him to like people that call me wanting those services. But then also like now another thing that I think there's other projects like, okay, well now there's all these, we've got the artists, we've got the bands. So now what if that artist or band is just like, oh man, I need a last minute drummer, or I need a last minute bass player. There's tons of musicians that aren't quote artists, that it's just like a thing where it's like, so right now the infrastructure on the website is like, well, there's not really room for them right now. But now it's like, oh, we've got to figure out a way to have a whole other directory that's available, but just so that there's like resources for the community and building more of that community, you know.
Okay, Mary, let me ask you, in building that table, in creating what you have with the collective, what are some of the hard-won lessons you've learned?
Hard one. Well, I can, you know, it's been so much fun. It has been such a joy to do this. I feel like I've been kind of creating my perfect next job. And it's been a passion and kind of something I've done on my own and with my own investment. I'm still waiting for the 501c3 to come through so I can fundraise. It's just been so much fun, and the discovery aspect of it, just to see, I'm like, every day it's like something new, a new artist, a new person. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that person's in Savannah. They're so great. Hard one, I think that I did in the beginning have delusions that I was going to build this calendar and that the information was just going to come. I knew I was delusional. And so I did have to chase the information from the calendar, which was incredibly time consuming. But I think actually was a good lesson for me, because it really had having to physically, manually enter that data every day. I really got to understand the landscape of the live music here in Savannah. So while that was tedious, and a little frustrating, and having to go find somebody's Facebook page and pray that they had a decent photograph that I could put on the listing. But now it's really turned around, and it's working. And now many, the promoters and clubs are actually sending me the content. So I get a big list or an email from Neurosound or Aurafest or Starlin Yard or Over Yonder. No, actually Over Yonder I still want to chase down. And there's some artists who are really great about sending me all of their dates. So it's made it a lot easier. And I go back and I look at the bank of photographs of artists that have been put into the calendar, and I'm just blown away. There are just so many. So I don't know how hard one that was, because the joy of discovery was there, and I think it was work that I did need to do so I could really understand what that landscape looked like. But it's getting a lot easier. People are, like I said, feeding it to me now, which makes it easy.
More of a collaborative effort. They
Absolutely.
know that the resources are there, and so they're participating in.
They are, and I'm even starting to hear from, we drew geographically kind of a line around Savannah, that we were just going to stick with Savannah because that was the easiest line to draw. Because of, there is so much more going on in Bluffton and Hilton Head and all around. But we decided just to make it manageable to just stick with Savannah. But I'm now starting to hear from the Effingham County Symphony Orchestra. That's a volunteer group that, who knew that was happening? But it's an incredible group of people who are so passionate about what they're doing. So if an artist or an organization wants to send that information, then absolutely, it's starting to grow. But it's, it's working. And I call Andrew at least once a week and to tell him about a connection that was made that just made me so happy. It was Neurosound Booking called. Somebody had reached out to him about a show that he couldn't promote.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was Secret Army, which is led by P-Funk's music director and bass and drums.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And once I looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, somebody in Savannah's got to do the show. So I was able to pass that opportunity onto District Live, who produced the show. Yeah. And so it just was like, okay, it's working. It's working.
And I think, too, it's like, to that point, is that every time that there's something new like that happens, like the conversation like Mary and I will have, it be like, oh, this is just confirming the thing we've been talking about independently of each other for a while, and then now it's just like every day there's just something that happens where it's like I had someone reach out to me the other night, and he was just like, oh hey, I reached out and like signed up to be in part of the collective, and he's like, and I'm like I don't remember ever having this conversation about it or my involvement with it or whatever. And it was just like sort of out of nowhere. And which I think like now, if the more people, again, this is a conversation you and I have had. It's just like when people know that there is a resource available to them and they know what that resource is, it's a lot easier to get people to feel comfortable. Like, oh, I've got questions. Perhaps there are people here that can help answer my questions. And that's another just like, that's the whole thing. I mean, that's the you and me and Tom have talked about that. It's the
coffee and conversation.
We just got to be willing to help anybody you can.
Have a conversation, find out where you can connect, how best you can serve in your community.
Yes. We had a great just this week. I'd connected with by some other past industry contacts. Connected with Jeremy Powell at GPB, who hosts the Peach Jam podcast. And he brings in artists from all over the state to do this Peach Jam podcast. And I connected with him to tell him about what we were doing in Savannah and bringing artists together and just what the opportunities might be there. And so he did. He called and said, I think in the past what he had done is looked at Connect Savannah and just to see who were voted the best bands in Savannah, and that's who he would invite, which is a great way to do it. But he reached out to me and said, I'm looking for, can you send me some Savannah artists to look at to take part in this? And so having worked with Andrew and been in touch with artists, I am so excited to connect some artists who have new original recorded material with that opportunity. And it's just really, so that kind of even further connection is working. I met with, do you know the Empress, my new favorite person? She's Seaport Savannah. She is so interesting. She is doing so much for her community. And I met her in an effort to reach out to the hip-hop community here because I'm not familiar with hip-hop in general, honestly. I'm a rock and roll girl. But she is someone that I've just grown to have so much respect for and what she's doing for her community. And she's very focused on promoting hip-hop artists and supporting Black-owned businesses. And she's just killing it. And so met with her to talk about the artists that she works with that would be best to send to Peach Jam. And so it's just, there's some incredible people in this community. You need to meet Empress. She's incredible.
Now I'm looking forward to it, and that's just it. It's our community, a great big community, and you can find just in any vein a wealth of ideas in industry.
Oh man,
making stuff.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, she's just bursting. Quite the entrepreneur. Yeah.
So, what are some of the differences and similarities from where you started?
The differences, I think the differences just have come from growth and just the understanding of what the community looks like, and similarities, just how much fun we've been having. Really, it's just been so much fun like I said, that joy of discovery. And finding new artists and being blown away. And I guess the difference is it's just getting bigger.
I felt that way Saturday. I heard Wembley for the first time and just sat there.
Wembley?
Yes, Wembley.
Is that a
them?
band?
Yeah,
Wembley?
know them? Oh,
Oh, yeah. And is it Wimberley?
Wembley. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. That's okay. I just want to make sure
Wembley.
I'm thinking, yeah, they are good. Yeah, they are good. And they've got she's really good. She actually, there's a girl that works with them that she's great about sending me just anything that she sees that's happening that she's interested in, wants to make sure is getting some exposure.
First time hearing them, I'm like, this is a local band that sounds this good, that I'm enjoying myself this much, and everyone else around me is. We were at the Eastern Wharf, and again, blown away.
I think that's something that I'm realizing. Like as you both know, I usually just stay in my cave here. But whenever I do leave the house and I see other bands and musicians playing, it's like, even sometimes when it's just like, clocking in, doing the cover gig downtown, whatever. There is some like amazing musicians and singers and songwriters and artists just, 10 minutes from here. And not just like, oh, it's pretty good for what they're doing, but like just top tier talent, And I think talking about like just as from like the music industry perspective of like, oh, how things have changed just in the time that like I've been working in the industry, or how since Mary's been working in it, it's just like a lot of things have changed. But like at the end of the day, it's just like, hey man, if you're making good work, people will recognize that the work is good, and that doesn't change. Like that's never going to change. The perception might, evolve over time, but I think that is something that's just evergreen. It's like if you're doing good stuff, people will recognize you're doing good stuff. It may take a while,
but that's how you get good, right?
Yeah, you might die before anyone recognizes
over and over again. That's what makes you.
Exactly, and that's so. It's funny because Andrew and I laugh. I have a lot of artists have just reached out to just talk about what they're doing and where they are, and it always blows me away that some young artists feel like they have to pigeonhole themselves, that they have to have a certain vibe where they play or whatever. But it's like, no, play everywhere, all the time, anytime, with everybody, anybody that'll play with you. It's just such an important part of that creative process, and you just never know what's going to happen with where you are and who you meet.
Okay, so what folks do here locally to kind of get involved, to help, or contribute in any way?
I think that spreading the word that the live music calendar is out there, that there is a resource, because coming out, having the community come out and get to know who these artists are. And I just don't think, we're spoiled rotten, having lived in Athens. People going to see live music is something that pretty much everybody does. And they have the college atmosphere, but then also the locals are just, live music is a big part of what everybody does. And so just trying to lift Savannah up to that place. And I think the first thing that I can't tell you how many times I go see a show and I'll be talking to a friend the next week and they're like, oh man, I would have loved to have seen that. That was great. I'm like, well, check, people just don't think about, I'm going to go, what am I going to do tonight? I'm going to go see some music. And I'm going to go discover something new. So I think just being aware that the resources out there and spreading the word. And also, if we're missing something, let me know. And yeah, I think so. Just knowing that it's there.
I love that. Yeah. If it's missing something, just let you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, that's it. That's Savannah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been fun. I got too much on my plate right now, but I'm having a ball with the collective.
And the truth is, you wouldn't have it any other way, though.
Yeah, I do this to myself. I do. But there's so much more. It's like Andrew said, we've been talking about listing the studios for a while, and it's just if there were only more hours in the day. But no, we'll get there. We've got lots of. We actually talked, and we weren't able to pull it off this year, we were aiming for the beginning of the summer to take some of the artists from Savannah that have new recording projects and do a little Georgia tour. Do Savannah, Macon, Athens, Atlanta, and there's great potential there. And we ended up the Atlanta piece of one of my great partners is Michelle Kaplinger, who's with the Recording Academy, the Grammys out of Atlanta, and she's very interested in staying connected and understanding, because they want to know who the recording artists are here out of Savannah, and she's interested in making sure that they know what resources the Recording Academy brings to the table, like Music Cares. And so we really wanted to land in Atlanta with some Grammy
support.
And to get some Grammy people to the table, and that just wasn't, the timing wasn't going to work out right. So, but we've still got that on the agenda. But going through Macon and taking advantage of resources that are there, and I've actually partnered with the University of Georgia's music business program. I have some interns that help me do some things, and they talked about taking on that show as a class project to be the promoter for a show in Athens. But then, of course, I'm excited to work with some old friends in Athens as well.
Well, I think that's it.
So
I think that's one of the other things that's really fun about this is that at some point we've all had this experience where it's like you're no longer the youngest person in the room, right? And you're like, oh, okay. And then we all kind of evolve into that, like, oh, we're kind of the elder statesman, if we want to, call it that or whatever. But one of the coolest things about working with like younger artists, or like people just getting started, or like trying to get their footing, and figuring out like, how do I record music? How do I release music? Whatever. Because Mary's been in the business for so long and has so much experience and so many resources, and like, similarly, I've been doing this a long time as well, and there's all these resources where it's like we know a lot of the same people in all the same cities all over the world, but now it's like, oh, we can utilize this resource bank that we both have, individually and collectively, to like help people make these connections. And it's like, I just last night I had a band who I know them. They're from near Asheville. Haven't seen them or talked to them in like 3 years, and they were just like, "Hey, we're looking for a club to play in Chicago," and it's like, I guarantee every place I used to go play there is closed. Like it's just like it's moved. They've moved. Things have changed hands because I don't do that anymore. But I was like, oh, hang on, give me like 30 minutes, and I just like, shot off a couple text messages to some people I know they're still up there that I've worked with for 2 decades and who I trust, and I was able to be like, hey, cool, here's this like list of 5 places. That easy, because I've got, I've already got all that. We've already got those years of experience, but it's so rewarding for me, and I think for Mary as well. It's like, it's so rewarding to be able to take all this stuff that we've learned over the years and give it to like younger people, and be like
pass
this
it on.
It is, and like, here's how you work smart instead of hard.
So my current guiding light is that we are the generation. Earlier this month, I was privileged to see them name the Cultural Arts Center after Otis Johnson, and kind of heard him say, you know, it's our time, like, and I'm really looking at that because, yeah, all of our heroes and all of our leaders, they're in a different space, and it is time for us to step in and make. So that's one of the reasons I'm so interested. I'm so happy to be doing this with you and meeting people like yourself. Mary Dugas, thank you for showing up this morning.
Absolutely. What a pleasure. What a pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Makers Podcast was created and produced by Apollo Johnson and Andrew Sovine. Recording and editing by Backroom Record Studios. Music written and recorded by me. I'm Andrew. Anyway, all right. Links in the show notes. Check out Savannah Music Collective and Savannah Music Festival. See what Mary's been getting up to. Thanks for sticking around, guys. This is a lot of fun. We've got more conversations coming your way. So come back next time.